I am AMANIREANS, Kandake of Kush, warrior and mother of my people. When Rome sought to break us, I led armies with courage and struck fear into Caesar's legions. With one eye I saw more clearly than their generals with two. I defended our land, our temples, and our freedom so fiercely that even Rome agreed to peace on our terms. My reign stands as proof. Kush bows to no empire, and the spirit of my people cannot be conquered. Now, listen to the Griot's canvas.
Imagine a queen who stood head-to-head with the might of Rome, a ruler who marched her army across deserts and Nile cataracts, raised tremors in Roman Egypt, and forced Emperor Augustus to negotiate with her dignity. Her name was AMANIREANS, the Kandake, or Queen, of the Kingdom of Kush, and her story is one of courage, strategy, and resilience. This is the tale of how she defended her realm, repelled Roman expansion, and carved her name into history. To understand AMANIREANS, we must first understand Kush. The Kingdom of Kush, sometimes called Nubia, lay to the south of ancient Egypt, in what is today northern Sudan. Over centuries, Kush had its own powerful dynasties, cultural identity, and traditions of rule. At various points, it both opposed and interlinked with Egypt. AMANIREANS is believed to have been born around 60 to 50 BCE. Some sources date her reign roughly from c. 25 BCE until her death around 10 BCE. She was likely married to King Teretek, and her son was Akinadad. By the 1st century BCE, Rome had conquered Egypt, following the defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, 30 BCE. Rome now controlled the entire Nile Valley north of Kush, but to the south, the Kushite kingdoms remained independent, prosperous, and often militarily capable. Within Kush, a distinctive institution stood out, the Kandake, or Candace in some Roman writings, meaning queen or queen mother. In Kushite society, the Kandake sometimes had ruling authority. Powerful female leaders were not unusual. Historical evidence suggests that AMANIREANS ruled in her own right, possibly jointly with male counterparts, her husband or son, but with strong personal authority. As Rome consolidated Egypt, it also pressured Nubia, imposing taxes, asserting boundaries, and sometimes stationing garrisons or influence in Lower Nubia, the border zone between Egypt and Kush. Over time, Roman officials demanded tribute or control of border fortresses. This growing pressure would provoke Kushite reaction. When the Roman prefect in Egypt was away, notably Aelius Gallus, who was dispatched on a campaign to Arabia, AMANIREANS saw opportunity. In about 24 BCE, AMANIREANS led a bold invasion into Roman territory. Commanding approximately 30,000 troops, she crossed the Nile and struck at Roman-held cities, Syene, modern Aswan, Elephantine, and Philae. The Kushite forces overwhelmed the Roman garrisons, captured many soldiers, looted Roman towns, and defaced imperial statues. In one act of symbolic defiance, they decapitated a bronze statue of Emperor Augustus and transported the head to Meroe, where it was buried beneath a temple stairway. This became known as the famous Meroe head, now displayed in the British Museum. This shock struck Rome. The invaders had not just raided border forts, but penetrated deep, humiliated imperial authority, and challenged the prestige of Augustus himself. Rome could not ignore this affront. The new Roman prefect of Egypt, Gaius or Publius Petronius, assembled a counterforce. His army included around 10,000 infantry and 800 cavalry, far smaller than the Kushite force in numbers, but superior in training, armor, and organization. Petronius marched south, pushing through Pelsis and toward the city of Premnis, establishing fortified positions. In the process, he demanded that AMANIREANS return captives and statues. When she refused or delayed, he retaliated by burning Napata, a historically significant city, and enslaving survivors. Yet the Kushites did not collapse. The terrain, supply lines, distance, and desert challenges weighed heavily on the Romans. Ambushes, guerrilla strikes, and attrition wore them down. Some of Petronius's officers reportedly were confused about leadership. Kushite generals misled them about the location of Akinadad to distract them from the real capital, Meroe. At times, the Romans found themselves in a standoff, surrounded or under threat, with limited routes of retreat. According to ancient sources like Strabo and Cassius Dio, Petronius himself realized that pushing further into Kush would be dangerously unsustainable. During one clash, Queen Amanirenas was injured. She is said to have lost one eye in battle. Strabo described her as having a masculine character and being blind in one eye, but her injury did not stop her. She continued pushing her people's resistance and rejoined command after recovering. Adding to Kush's burden, Prince Akinadad, her son, reportedly died during the conflict. After years of back-and-forth struggle, exhaustion, and risk, Petronius recognized that continued fighting could inflict heavy Roman losses and weaken control over Egypt. He initiated diplomatic overtures, proposing talks with Emperor Augustus. Remarkably, Kushite envoys were sent to Samos, a Greek island, where Augustus was preparing for Eastern business, to negotiate terms. Amanirenas did not go personally. She sent delegates, a statement of her status and confidence. The treaty, concluded around 2221 BCE, was favorable to Kush. The key terms included: Rome withdrew its troops from the southernmost occupied strip, the 30-mile strip, and ceded territory to Kush. Kush was exempted from further tribute or taxation to Rome, a rare concession. The frontier was formalized near Dodekashoinos, the 12 Shonois, or Hyres Sikaminos, or Maharaka, defining the buffer zone between Roman Egypt and Kush. As a symbolic gesture of goodwill or prestige, Augustus ordered collaboration to erect or expand temples, for instance at Dendor, and engaged with local priesthoods in the border zone. With that, Rome accepted Kushite sovereignty and agreed not to demand tribute. It was a diplomatic victory. Rome kept prestige, but checked a costly war, and Kush secured independence. Following the treaty, Amanirenas dedicated years to rebuilding her kingdom, consolidating strength, and nurturing peace. Her reign after the war is often viewed as a flourishing period for Kush. The Meroitic Kingdom of Kush continued as a regional power for centuries. The Roman border in Egypt stabilized, the buffer zone reduced friction, and the memory of her resistance endured in Kushite inscriptions. One enduring artifact is the Meroe head, that bronze bust of Augustus, looted during the Kushite incursions and intentionally buried under the steps of a Meroitic temple, symbolically asserting that Romans stood under Kushite feet. Over time, Amanirenas' story faded in many classical histories, overshadowed by Roman narratives. But in modern scholarship, Black history initiatives, and public culture, her name has been revived as a powerful example of African resistance and female leadership. Today, Queen Amanirenas is celebrated as one of Africa's great warrior queens. She is frequently cited in works on African history, women's history, and narratives of resistance against empire. Archaeologists and historians continue to study the stelae, inscriptions that mention her, attempts to decipher Meroitic language, and material remains from Nubia to reconstruct her reign. Her example challenges common tropes, illustrating that empires were resistible, that strong female rulers existed in Africa, and that history includes many untold stories of sovereignty beyond the classical Mediterranean. Queen Amanirenas' war with Rome stands as a dramatic chapter in ancient African history. She did not merely defend territory, she asserted dignity, forced respect from an empire, and secured her people's independence. In my view, I believe she isn't just one of the greatest queen in Africa, I think she is the greatest queen in Africa and of all time, not just because of her bravery and preventing the complete conquest of Africa by the Romans, but fighting for justice and righteousness against all odds and defeated the mighty Roman army. Just as I believe the greatest emperor general of all time is Jean-Jacques Dessalines of Haiti, because the French wanted to wipe out the African people in the New World, at least in the Caribbean and in Africa. But that will be another video entirely. Without the good fight of Queen Amanirenas, All or at least most of Africa will look like northern Africa today due to the continued conquest of the Romans. When we remember her, we reclaim a voice from the margins of history, that of a bold, determined leader who refused to bow.